Why, hello there. Welcome back to my channel, guys. My name is Yani, and today we are going to be doing a book haul. I bought all these books while I was on vacation in beautiful Colombia. I was there for 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, I read 0 books. So where I have the audacity to come and buy 13 books when I'm reading 0, I guess we'll never know. But I am super excited about the books that I have here to show you. Now, really quick, if you have watched a couple of my videos before, you see that I have new bookshelves. I previously used to just have the singular one, and it was completely full. So I decided that it was time to upgrade. So now I have the two, and I'm extremely happy. And part of the reason that I was able to convince myself that it was okay to buy this many books in one go when I wasn't reading is because I had so much empty space that I was able to fill out. So that is a primary reason. Additionally, being in Colombia, which is a predominantly, actually, I think entirely Spanish speaking country, I was able to find books in Spanish, which I want to start reading more books in Spanish because Spanish was actually my first language. And just through years of speaking so much English, my vocabulary has weakened and my understanding of grammar could use some improvement. And I figure what better way to do that than to read books in Spanish. Now, obviously, they were a lot more accessible in Colombia and a lot cheaper in Colombia as well, comparative to how much they would cost in the US to find books in a different language. So that is part of the reason that I've gone ahead and made these purchases. Now there's 13 books, only about 5 of them are in Spanish. I'm going to start with those first, and I'm going to go into the books that are in English. So let's just go ahead and get started with the first book. So the first book that I'm actually going to be talking about is Como Agua para Chocolate by Laura Esquivel. So English like water for chocolates. I'm sure you guys have heard of it. It's a very popular book. There's actually a show, I believe, by HBO. Don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. But essentially, this is a book about a young woman and a young man who are in love, but due to the tradition of their country, which, don't judge me. I haven't read this book yet. I'm not sure what country. They can't get married while the woman's mother is still alive. So the woman, the young girl who is, in love, she kind of declares her love and intentions through cooking delicious meals. And within this book, it follows that story and narrative, but it also has recipes, which I think are so cool. And I'm curious on whether or not these recipes can actually be followed, and maybe I'll follow. Maybe I'll do some. Maybe I'll take a video of trying out some of the recipes from this book. But that is Como Agua para Chocolate, and like water for chocolates. And I think this is one of the first ones I'm going to read as far as like the Spanish collection goes. I think it'll be a lot more accessible as a first Spanish read comparative to some of the more difficult texts that I have purchased. So that is Como Agua para Chocolate. And then after I read this, would love to watch the show and see how they did, or is it a movie? But essentially watch the adaptation and just kind of give my thoughts and perspectives. But that is Como Agua para Chocolate. The next 2 books that I purchased, I've actually already read. I just really love these beautiful editions. I think they're gonna look so stunning in my bookshelf. But this is Fahrenheit 451 and El Gran Gatsby, The Great Gatsby. So, I don't know how you say Fahrenheit in Spanish, and it's spelled exactly the same. So Fahrenheit 451, but this is El Gran Gatsby. These are some beautiful editions, and these are books that I have already read. So I think it will aid my intentions of improving my Spanish because I already know the story that's happening. And as far as Fahrenheit 451 goes, I did not previously have an edition of this. So it was missing from my bookshelves anyways, and it's one of those books that I really wanted to own in general. So that is why I have purchased these. These look so cute. They are used copies. Like Water for Chocolate was not a used copy. These are used copies. The pages are a little bit yellow. I think there's some annotations in some places. but there's some annotations in some places. But I think that's neat. It adds to the character of these stories. I love annotating, and I love seeing books that have been annotated and loved and, you know, been impressed upon by their readers. So I'm excited to have both of these in my possession. Now, I have already read both of these books. I likely will not be rereading these anytime soon, but it's good to have in my collection. And I think they're going to just look so lovely wherever it is I end up placing them. So that is The Great Gatsby and Fahrenheit 451 in Spanish. Now, these next two books I'm very excited about. They were both written by Gabriel Garcia Márquez. Now, Gabriel Garcia Márquez is one of my favorite authors. He wrote 100 Years of Solitude, which a lot of you have probably heard of, but he wrote a lot of novels. I've read 4 of them already. I read them all in English, and it felt so extremely fitting being in Colombia, which is the birthplace of Gabriel Garcia Márquez, and buying some of his books. So I actually bought 2 of them. I bought En Agosto Nos Vemos, which is in August we'll see each other. I'm not sure that's the exact translation as far as the title goes, but that is, roughly translated. I also have El Coronel no tiene quien le escriba. The colonel doesn't have anyone to write him. And honestly, had never heard of either of these 2 books. I've heard of a lot of Gabriel Garcia Marquez's books. I have a personal plan to read all of them. So seeing some that I hadn't heard of was really fun and exciting, and 2 super unique covers. This one I'm very, very excited about in particular because it is illustrated. Now, I'd be lying if I said I knew what either of these were about. So, El Coronel no tiene quien escriba. No idea what it's about, like I said. And that's okay. I don't particularly want to look it up because I enjoy going into things kind of blindly. But it's a little bit short. If I had to guess, just from the 1 or 2 pages I've read, it's just about a lonely man. We'll see. We'll see if I was right. But this copy in particular is illustrated, and it has this beautiful portrait at the beginning of Gabriel Garcia Marquez with his biography. And then there's lovely images throughout the text as well, which I think will make it super engaging and exciting and will again further aid my understanding. Now, the other Gabriel Garcia Marquez books that I have is En Agosto Nos Vemos. I believe it's about a woman who takes the train to visit her mother's grave, and something happens. I'm not sure what happens. I haven't read it yet. And I do like to know as little as possible when it comes to books that I am reading. So what I'm telling you is what I know. I know that is very, not detailed at all. And this one isn't illustrated the way that the other one is, but it's still short. And that's part of why I like Gabriel Garcia Marquez. His books are short and impactful. And I have read tons of his works translated, so I'm excited to see what his actual words are, his, intentions and tonality, things that can get lost in translation. So those are my 2 books by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I'm excited to read them. I don't think I'll read them first. I think I'm going to read Like Water for Chocolate first because, as I said, I think it's a bit more accessible. But these are definitely seconds. And then the last book that I have purchased in Spanish specifically is another one that I've already read before. It's called Mujeres que corren con los lobos, or you most likely know it as Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estés. I love this book. Do I have intentions to read it again in Spanish? Not 100% right now. However, I could not leave this cover. The US cover, ugly. This cover, beautiful. So that's why I got it. And what I like about this book, as far as using it as something that improves my Spanish, is that the chapters are all dissecting a different fairy tale. So if you don't know what this book is about, this is basically, it's kind of nonfiction, but it's like a narrative nonfiction. And what the author, Clarissa, does is that she dissects classic fairy tales from around the world, not just the ones from like the Grimm's brothers. I don't actually think she touches on those, but just common folk tales and fairy tales, and she dissects them and how they can be applied to your life as a woman specifically to learn core moral lessons and just warnings as well. If you know, fairy tales were used to be warnings for children, right? You have something like the Little Red Riding Hood, something about like don't trust strangers or something like that, or The Boy Who Cried Wolf, don't lie. A lot of these stories were told to serve as guiding principles for children, and that's something that we've lost. We take it in as a story a lot now, but what Clarissa does is that she dissects it and she talks about these stories specifically to women and what women can take away about their selves, their inner being, their intuition, things that have gotten stifled throughout history, and how we can regain that so that we can protect ourselves and not protect ourselves against any one thing or any one person, but just like, hey, don't lose who you are, don't lose the fire within, don't lose your humanity because someone or something or society says that to squash yourselves, you have power, you have an innate being, you have intuition. This book really, really harps on the intuition that women have. And even if you're not a woman, there's nothing, you should read this because you're never going to be harmed in having greater understanding. And everybody, women or otherwise, could benefit from listening to their intuition. But this is particularly tailored towards women because women are mostly the ones who have been told to stifle that. So that is Mujeres que corren con los lobos, or Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estés. So those were all the books that I purchased while I was in Colombia physically. I did make more purchases. I have a couple more books to show you that are in English, but those were more of an online situation. I did technically buy them while I was on vacation, which is why they're part of this book haul, but they were more so waiting for me at the door. Regardless, I'm super excited to talk about these, so let's just go ahead and jump right in. Drum roll, please. Okay, so I'm being silly. So the first book that I bought and that I'm going to talk about is The Beauty of the Husband by Anne Carson. Look at this cover. I am a sucker for an incredible cover, so you have to put up with me as I show you all these covers, but I'm going to read you the back. It kind of summarizes what it's about perfectly. The Beauty of the Husband is an essay on Keats' idea that beauty is truth, and it is also the story of a marriage. It is told in 29 tangos. A tango, like a marriage, is something you have to dance to the end. I've heard incredible glowing reviews about this one, which is what piques my interest. And I love that it is essentially a big, long poem. So I'm able to just hopefully like read it in one sitting. So I refuse to start this until I can sit down and read it all the way through. So I don't know when I'll get to it, but I hope to get to it soon because I'm very, very excited to read this one and kind of give you guys my thoughts on it. So that is The Beauty of the Husband by Anne Carson. This next book that I want to show you guys, I'd be shocked if you haven't heard about it. It has kind of blown up a little bit and made the rounds. And that is Monstrilio by Gerardo Sámano Córdova. So this is a book about a woman whose son dies. And in her grief, she saves a piece of her son's lungs and she starts to grow and nurture it into what I assume becomes this thing right here. And to kind of quote the back, it is a meditation on grief, acceptance, and the monstrous sides of love and loyalty. This is a book that is for sure outside of my personal zone. I don't particularly like to read about grief. And I know that some people are into the very gothic scene, the very like, Frankenstein type of books. I'm not, but I do think it's important to read outside of your comfort zone and challenge yourself with narratives that maybe explore different feelings, concepts that you're not familiar with or comfortable with. And that is what this book is for me. I am very, very fascinated into what this grows into. And I know one of my friends, Kenna, she said this is on her list as well. So I hope she does read it. Now we can talk about it because I'm sure I'm going to have lots of thoughts on this. But this is Monstrilio by Gerardo Sámano Córdova. Look at it. Look at it. Oh my God, imagine. So I have saved the best for last. I purchased the entire Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. I'm so excited to own these. I have up until this point just been listening to the audiobooks, which are incredible. I use Everand and they have a dramatized version, which is immaculate, top tier, total voice cast and everything. So I most likely will continue to use the audiobooks for these, but I love to have the physical copies of the Red Rising series. I have already read the first two, which are Red Rising and Golden Sun, and then I have the remainder of the series here. And as soon as I finish the book that I am currently reading, I will be listening to Morning Star. I'm super, super excited. I know that I don't talk about it a lot on this channel, at least yet. I do love fantasy and sci-fi in between all of my heavy reading. I do like to relax, and this is for me relaxing. So for those of you who don't know what Red Rising is about, it is about a man named Darrow. He's like 20, so more of like a young kid. But he is a red, and a red is basically the lowest of the tier pool in society, and they are basically doing the labor to fuel the rest of the solar system. And they do this because they've been fed a lie, that the solar system is not inhabitable, and they're building up the resources so that the human race can survive. But then Darrow finds out that this is a lie, and they're actually just doing slave labor for the elite golds, which are the top tier ranks, and kind of ruling everything and keeping everyone in the dark to profit and extort them for their labor and resources, essentially. And they're just kind of keeping them down through this color system that is essentially like a caste system, almost based off, being a red, a pink, which are like prostitutes, or sex workers. Yeah. Can I say that on YouTube? So he doesn't really decide. He gets recruited to go undercover as a gold and basically infiltrate from within. And it grows and turns into this big space epic. I've only read the first two books, but it's really good and it only gets better. So I hear. And I'm very excited to now own the remainder of this series. So that is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I know I said that Red Rising was the last book, but that's because I actually had another book over there. But this is Lighthousekeeping by Jeanette Winterson. This is about a girl named Silver who was born part precious metal, part pirate. And she's orphaned, so she's taken in by a blind man called Mr. Pugh, who starts telling her stories of a 19th century clergyman named Babel Dark. And she's able to use these stories to navigate passionate love, and really grow in self, I believe. I mean, I'm only 12 pages. I'm not 100% sure the direction this is going in, but it's passionate. It's whimsical too. I'm very upset by the cover. You would not think from this cover that this is a whimsical, kind of fantastical story. The cover that I really wanted is only available in the UK. So if anyone here is watching from the UK and wants to be the middle person for me to get a much more beautiful cover, like, just comment down below. But yeah, this is Lighthousekeeping, and I just started reading it. I'm barely any part of the way through, but when I finish it, I will definitely let you know what I think. But essentially, this girl named Silver gets taken in by this lighthouse keeper named Mr. Pugh, who tells her story that she's able to apply into her own life, and it's whimsical and fantastical and passionate and lovely. And I am enjoying reading it. It's super quick, even though I'm 12 pages in. I think I'll finish it in no time, and that is Lighthousekeeping by Jeanette Winterson. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really hope that you enjoyed listening to me talk about these books. Please let me know if you've read any of them, if you plan to read any of them, what you're reading or purchased recently. Honestly, I just really want to hear from you. Thank you so much for being part of this community. I really hope that you'll like, comment, subscribe, and stay tuned for new videos every single week. I will see you guys next time.